and welcome to another episode of the Veterans History Project, Santa Clarita Valley Edition. The Veterans History Project is an initiative of the American Folklife Center at the Library of Congress. The Santa Clarita Valley Edition is spearheaded by College of the Canyons in association with Vets Back to War Zone and SCV TV. The project relies on volunteers to collect the oral histories of combat troops and support personnel who served in active war zones. My name is Leon Warden. Today is June 14th, 2010, and my guest today is Newhall resident Tom Johnson, veteran of the Marine Air Corps who served in the Philippines during World War II. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And thanks for coming.
Happy to be here.
You know, we saw you out at the recent Memorial Day celebration. One thing that struck me is you still fit in your uniform.
That's a result of clean living.
There you go. Where did you do this clean growing up?
Well, I was, of course, born in Kansas, living on a farm, and 125-19.
125-1919.
Which makes me about 91 years old right now.
Okay.
Just beginning to find my youth.
Grew up on a farm in Kansas, huh?
Yes.
Did you have brothers and sisters?
Yes, I had 2 brothers and 1 sister. My sisters died, but my brothers are still living. They're younger than I am. I was the oldest.
Okay. What kind of farming?
Small crop.
Yeah.
And stock.
Tell me about your school days.
Well, I graduated from a small high school in Kansas. And for some reason or other, I was blessed with athletic ability. I don't know why. And started in basketball, baseball, track. And just adapted to it. I don't know how a farm kid did this, but anyway, I did. I think my biggest thrill in high school was scored 43 points in a game, and when the scores were 18-19. And as a result of that, played some AAU basketball. And from there on, went to Kansas State University at Emporia. Went down to play basketball. I thought I'd get in shape. Went out for the football team to get in shape. Ended up making the football team instead.
Okay.
Never played in high school. So as a consequence, I led her 3 years in football. While there, I had a nice job driving a bus out to the airport for the civilian pilot training. Got tired of seeing these guys dump off and go and fly their airplanes while I sat reading in a book. So I finally just closed the door, locked the bus, and flew myself.
What year was this?
This would have been in 1941.
Okay. And what kind of planes were you flying?
The Piper Cub was what we trained in at that particular point in time. Then the war broke out. About 4 or 5 days later, I received a call. My draft number was coming up.
Okay.
So I quickly went to Kansas City to the Naval Air Station and enrolled. And when they found out I could fly already, they took me through there so fast I didn't know what was happening.
I'll bet. So you enlisted rather than be drafted?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I wasn't any big hero, but I just felt if I had to go to war, I wanted to do something I wanted to do, and I felt the air was a lot better place to be than on the ground crawling around the mud.
Well, how is it that you picked the Marines in particular?
As I went through training, my marks were good because I could fly an airplane, which really helped me all the way because I soloed, I think, in my initial trainer. I probably took about 2 or 3 hops and I soloed, where many of them would go 17, 18 trips before they could solo.
Yeah.
So anyway, I had an advantage. And from there on, traveled through the gauntlet and ended up in Corpus Christi, and I graduated there with, I guess, good flag marks. And so a Marine Colonel came around one day and wanted to know if any of us wanted to be among the chosen few. We had about 10% of the upper class at Corpus Christi sitting there. And so they would only select the 10 at that time, who select the top echelon.
Okay.
And here I was, a college graduate to boot, which was unusual.
Yeah, you would have been about, was this December of 41 or January of 42? Or?
It was in January of 41.
January of 41.
Yeah, when was
42.
42, yes.
42, yeah.
Yes. I'm so sorry. December 7, 41 was the Pearl Harbor.
Right.
So this was in January. But anyway, I had gone through their training, so this must have been about, May or June of 42, I guess. Yes, it would be, yes.
Sure.
And I had taken a flight out of the ocean, and the engine began conking out a little bit, and it came over water and so forth. So well,
Is this still a Piper Cub you're talking about?
You know, I was in Corpus Christi then when these Marines were interviewing us.
Okay.
And I thought, well, wait a minute now. I was over the ocean here and got lost. I didn't want to go lying in the water. So that Marine might sound pretty good to me. So they indicated, well, you can go out there and fly your 25, 30 missions and come back home. Out in the Navy, you don't know how long you're going to be out in the carriers. And so anyway, yes, 25, 30 missions, you come home. I was out there 3 years and I had about 50-some missions. Now, I never did get home.
How many hours did you have flying time before you went in?
Probably about a couple hundred.
Yeah.
In that area, I was sitting on a couple hundred.
So you had already graduated college. What did you study in college?
In college was athletic administration primarily.
Okay.
And I was going to be coach because I had natural athletic ability, and I thought, well, that would be one way. And then I felt also strong through psychology because I always felt like my upbringing, I wanted to help people. Because we had a theory there in our farm community, if somebody was sick, you went out and did their chores for them, did their crops and so forth and so on. So early in life, I was taught how to help people. Don't think of yourself all the time. How can you help people?
So let me see if I got this straight. You excelled academically, you excelled athletically, you excel at flying, and so now it's 1942 and you're going into the Marines. Did they have to, what kind of training did you receive from the Marines?
Excellent. One of the best in the world.
Tell me about that. What did you learn to do that you didn't already know how to do?
Well, just particularly in the dive bombing tactics. And you learn to think for yourself. If they gave you a certain mission and said, well, how do you want you to do this? And they would say, how do you think you should do it? And this was unusual with other armies in the world. They were told not to do it, or what to do, not what to do.
So they asked you to think?
Yes, they asked me to think. And
that does seem unusual.
So on our first combat mission that we had, lo and behold, it was a lowly second lieutenant. Majors were supposed to lead those flights. I was assigned to lead a squadron, about 24 airplanes on the first combat mission. And so I was a little green at that time. I said, well, you know.
So this is your first mission and you're the leader?
Yes. And I said, well, how do you want me to take it? And this colonel says, you figure that out. You know, just bring as many people back as you can. Well, we all got back that day. So
you were assigned where?
At that particular point in time, I was assigned at Bougainville. That was about a year after the onslaught at Guadalcanal. The real heroes were those people there. My cousin was killed in Guadalcanal flying the airplane.
A lot of men were.
And they were the heroes. The Joe Fosses and the Pappy Bollingtons. So we came in right after that. So the air supremacy from the enemy had been lowered to some extent. There were as many enemy planes in the air. But those poor individuals who went in first with dilapidated planes and met these Japs there, it was 80, 100, they'd go up 15, 20 to meet them. You know, I don't know how they did it. Or there's guys that went into Guadalcanal and so forth. Those are the heroes, you know, when we talk about this, and the ones that gave their lives. And you never died for your country, you know. And you never gave your life for your country. It was taken from you. There were a few that were almost willing to give, such as a guy in Iraq who falls down on a live bomb in order to save 8 or 10 of his comrades. We developed somewhat of unity there that you didn't want to die for your country. You didn't want to look bad for your country. You didn't want to look bad in front of your fellow man.
When you were this green recruit, did you worry that you weren't going to make it through the war?
No, I had a sense that everything's going to be all right.
Mm-hmm.
They even gave it a thought. I've often thought about that. Because we had not a great casualty lost, probably about 25–30% of our squadron, but not all of it was combat.
Yeah.
Bad weather, planes conking out, ditching in the water because, you know, and here picking up by the enemy. And that's where we lost a lot of planes, and I mean, a lot of men and a lot of planes.
You mentioned unity. What did you rely on your comrades for? You know, did you develop strong friendships and that sort of thing?
Just with a few. You learn to somewhat keep a little distance because the next day you didn't know if somebody was going to be there or not. In other words, you just didn't want to have that, what you call, close unity, but still unified.
Yeah.
Because you had to exactly know what the other individual was doing, because when we come in groups, you're going to dive on tactics and dive down. You couldn't be pulling out and another guy dropping a bomb before you pulled out behind you. So everything was spaced and everything was timed. It was quite a puzzle to put together to not shoot yourself, because there were a lot of friendly fire that occurred, you know.
Friendly fire isn't just a new phenomenon.
No, it's not new. It's not new. And it does happen.
Did you witness some friendly fire incidents?
A couple of times, yeah. I'd rather not talk about them, but it's...
I've heard of, we've had folks on the show right here talking about how, you know, sometimes somebody will drop a bomb on your own plane. Hit your
Another
own plane.
bad scene too you had, you know, sometimes in our planes we had what they call these sensors that would tell you whether you're friendly or not. Well, sometimes it didn't work.
Okay.
Well, here it would be somewhere at night, dark, not, you know, with the moon shining.
So do all the planes have some kind of a transponder or something?
Yes,
Okay, so that's,
so
you would rely on
friendly
that.
or not. And if you didn't turn it on, there's another thing, if you forgot to turn it on.
You look like an enemy plane if you don't turn it on.
Plane. And also, earlier, they had the red circle on our planes with the star.
Yeah.
And you had to take that off because that red circle drew.
Sure.
Because well, out in the area with clouds and so forth, if you didn't think fast and get there first,
like a zero
you
or
had
something,
it. You had it. So, we had an old theory there. You know, in high school and in college, you played a game, you won or lost. If you lost, you wonder why you lost, and you think, what can I do to improve this situation? And I made a speech one time that I still remember with the applause that I got. I said, you know, there's one thing that helped me through the war in flying combat missions, because there you had about 20 seconds. And if you won, you lived. And if you lost, you died. So I said it was a different game.
The stakes were a little bit
bit
higher.
They were a little higher.
Take me back to that first that first combat mission that you were talking about, where you were the squadron leader. What kind of a plane were you in?
We were in the SPG dive bombers. It was an older plane, but probably the most stable dive bombing plane I ever was in. I don't want to jump the gun ahead, but when I came back from combat, I was fortunate to be able to fly all the planes the Navy had, practically all of them, in the transport command. So I got to fly all the F-4Us and SP-2Cs and so forth and so on. And that Douglas Dauntless dive bomber, SVD, the one you could just sit straight down and it would stay there, and just like a little doll. It just never jump on you, you know, around jumping, you're coming down, just shooting. So easy, I thought, to hit targets with the thing.
Yeah. What were the crew positions in the plane?
The two had a gunner.
Okay.
And the gunner's job was to spray.
So there's one pilot and one gunner, and that's it. Okay. So you were the pilot?
Yes, We sprayed machine gun fire going down, and the gunner primarily would spray machine gun fire pulling out, when we pulled out.
Okay.
Tried to pull out at treetop level, or as low to the ground as we possibly could. So.
Right.
And, but that was just one. So many more had it so much if I can use the word, a tougher situation than I did because of the targets, like an Iwo Jima and like the B-17s over Europe. I had a friend of mine where, how can you send out 200-300 B-17s and have 40-50 lost coming in one raid? You know, that's how they did that, because they didn't have the air cover at that time with the fighters, as you know. And finally they conquered that, but we had air covers to some extent. The Australians were great at covering us, and the Army pilots. And we had other Marine, these were fighter squadrons.
So you had 24 bombers with you?
At that particular point, yeah. It would range from one solo flight, and scouting particularly, and so forth and so on, or search and find, as we called it. And then 6, and perhaps 12, and the maximum would be 24.
On that first mission, did you lose any planes?
No.
How many missions did you fly total?
I suppose it must have been somewhere around 50.
Were you typically the leader of them?
Yes, when I flew, I was a squadron leader.
You were always a squadron?
Yes,
Okay.
There were times in large formations we had sometimes 150 go up, but they were different squadrons from different areas. And then at those times, and there were times, I think, that I would say most of the time that I was leader, I was squadron leader, yes. We were with 3 planes, or whether it was 1 plane or what.
And is it correct that most of your bombing missions were over the Philippines?
No, about half of them were in the Bougainville area and on up around the circle. Rabaul, these islands out in the Pacific, Amaru. And then
how effective were you at driving back the Japanese?
Well, what we did mostly was destroy ships, supplies, gas, ammunition, and dumps that they had, and so forth and so on. Destroy their supplies, airstrips, planes they may have had underground, so forth and so on. We had one strike that I remember so vividly. It was on Christmas Eve. And the colonel comes in and says, you know, I'm sure the enemy thinks we are sleeping tonight and celebrating. And there's a lot of gunfire on this target up in Rabaul. They're protecting their ammunition dumps and so forth and so on. Take a group of planes up there and blast it. And here's what we're doing. And I said, as I remember so vividly going into a dive and saying to myself, well, here comes Christmas. So it's usual what some little things that you remember as such. But anyway, there were so many that did so much more than I did. When you stop to think of like a Pappy Bones and 26 airplanes down, you know, it's just unbelievable. But you had to have those opportunities where they were there.
Yeah. Major
Fong, he was an Army pilot. And they even transferred him to places where there were enemy planes in order that he had a chance to shoot planes down, because the Army wanted to be the leading ace.
Yeah.
So,
sure.
Anyway.
Sure. Describe your experience and what that was like, where you were bombing and what you were doing.
Well, we were up about 400 miles north in a bay called Lingayen Gulf. And we were flying up from an island with the information given to us. We're working on an airstrip. We hope to have it ready by the time you get there. If you don't, dump your planes out in the ocean and parachute near land, because the airstrip won't be ready. We're building a airstrip in a rice field. And the last bulldozer was pulling off as we were coming into land. That was how close it was, in a rice field. But it worked. And from there on, the Army had just landed before us. And they would run into obstacles and so forth. In front, hills, a lot of little hills and so forth. So our job was to go ahead of them, clean out as much as we could. so that they could advance without getting shot down. Many of them owed their lives to what we were doing. And that kept on to Manila, and then of course we had some other larger combat missions, what we call real combat missions, whereby groups would come in and attack the harbor or attack the city or whatever the case may be, large dumps. And there were other planes out there also. The fighter planes were active there. The Army was active there. There were other Marine squadrons there also. So we weren't the only squadron that was there.
Right.
But we bombed ahead of his troops. It was a primary purpose. What they call close air support.
Okay.
That went on, and when Manila was taken, we had then received orders to go back home for the old squadron. But we were in the initial squadron, and it was composed of newer people coming in, so we were allowed to go home. But we had orders to go home. I had my orders, and I was called in, and it was the only time I thought a little bit about myself. Called in and says, you know, there's a bridge up here in the mountains. They're trapped. What do you call it? The individuals, islanders. Freedom fighters, I guess would be a word for them.
Oh, okay.
Yes. And that you need to take that bridge out. Somebody has to take that bridge out. You're the only one that you think can hit it. Well, they didn't use quite those words, you know. And would you go? And I said, well, I have orders to go home, right here. And he said, well, it's up to you. It's a volunteer. He said, by the way, it's a 50-50. So again, what? I didn't want to look bad, so I went and bombed the bridge, came back, went home.
And when was this?
That would have been in the early 1945 in January.
Okay.
Yeah, and about, I'd say a year ago, I was in San Francisco for a meeting. I was having a little trouble walking down the line, so here comes an older individual with one of these carts and so forth, and he says, you know, if you need a ride, your next station's way down there. And he was a Filipino. He said, were you in the war? And I said, yeah, I was in the Philippines. Oh, well, I'm a Filipino. He said, let me tell you something, he said. I live near Baguio. And he said, we were stuck one time, trapped and so forth and so on, and you know, a wild Marine came down through a valley there and bombed the bridge out, and it was me.
You're kidding.
The chance of that happening is, what, 1 in a million?
Yeah.
So though you have those thoughts that you somewhat remember, and how can that happen?
Yeah, that's something else. Who did you leave back home? Did you have a wife, girlfriend, whatever?
Well, that's what a story of my life is all about, and what my daughter is, as you know, is an actress and singer, screenwriter, and what have you.
I know, it was a bit of a rhetorical question.
Yeah. And a wartime romance, and that pretty much depicted what I was doing.
And your daughter had developed a play out of the letters that you wrote back home. To whom? Tell me about who you were writing those letters to.
In other words, my wife died. I didn't realize she had kept the letters I had written. They were up in the attic, and my wife and daughter went through them, found them. And I would say such things as, she was a good musical here, you know, good tune, would you listen to it, and so forth. And so my daughter said, this makes a good musical. But I only had dated my girlfriend back there 2 or 3 times my whole time growing up. She was about 4 years younger than I was. So I came back on the leave, and she was about the only one around, and I wanted somebody to tell me what was going on around in the community. I said, would you mind writing to me? So one thing led to another. And pretty soon through letter writing, I found I had some things in common. Although we were different in day and night, we were still things in common. And so then, I didn't realize at the time what they went through at home, those who were back, the mothers and the girlfriends, and how they suffered, waiting, wondering, and much more probably than I was wondering what was going to happen to me, because I had no doubt I was going to make it back. Yeah, if you didn't, you were pretty well lost. So from that aspect, then, things really were in the yo-yo. I was reported missing twice. And then she didn't know what to do. I came back, then we got together. I began flying the transport commands and so forth, and so I had to get married. And I'm married 53 years. So.
Well, Tom, I want to thank you very much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Great stories. And if you want to learn more about Tom's story, you can go to wartimeromance.com. Is that correct? Have I got that right?
Yes.
Okay, good.
wartimeromance.com.
wartimeromance.com. If you'd like to watch more episodes of the SCV Veterans History Project, log on to scvtv.com. I'm Leon Warden, and we'll catch you next time.